Good evening. This is Tatiana Holden, Deputy Public Works Director. I would like to welcome everyone in attendance this evening. Welcome to the meeting of Traffic and Transportation Commission. Today is Tuesday, July 25th. I'd like to call the meeting to order and take the roll call of commissioners. Commissioner Pasai.
I couldn't hear you.
Oh, taking a roll call of the commissioners. Commissioner Pasai.
Commissioner, you can answer here.
Here, present.
Commissioner Patton.
Here.
Commissioner Kessel.
Here.
Thank you. Please rise and join us in Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask Treya, our assistant engineer, to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the opening matter is announcements and introduction. Any announcements from the commissioners?
No announcements from me. Thank you.
Then we have an important item this evening, that is election of chair and vice chair of the commission.
Are there any nominations for the chair? Or would anybody like to nominate themselves for chair?
Not me.
I'll nominate myself for chair. I'm either in the back or I'm going to be
Right
right
up
up there with you, Phil. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Patton.
I will
second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None. The motion passes 3-2. Mr. Patton, you are now the chair, and we'll turn the meeting over to you for the election of a vice chair.
So, do any of our commissioners want to assume the role of vice chair?
Not at this moment, no. I have my hands full.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I would second that. Mike?
Second motion.
Yeah, second,
Okay.
of course.
Phil?
Okay. If there are no other nominations, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. We have a vice chair. Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to then just follow the agenda, the next would be approval of the agenda.
So, does anyone have any disagreements with the approval of this agenda, or can we move forward? Commissioners?
No, we can move forward.
We can move forward.
Okay, so all in favor? We're
Aye.
moving, we've approved the agenda. Philip? Do we have to approve the meeting minutes as well?
They were located in the
Yeah.
packet.
Yep. So within our packet, we've got an approval of the meeting minutes from February 28th, our February 28, 2003 meeting. Does anyone have anything to say about those meeting minutes, or can we move forward and proceed?
I think we can move forward.
Okay,
We can proceed.
okay.
Meeting,
Philip?
minutes stand as approved.
Minutes stand as approved. Public comment, there's nothing here from public comment at this moment. So, shall we proceed from public comment?
We should.
Okay. So the agenda items, let's look at our agenda. One is Agora Road, Lost Hills Road restriping. Philip, is there anyone from your team going to lead that, or?
Yes, Tatiana and Maya will be presenting the item today.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you. Tatiana, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. At the last meeting, at February meeting, Commissioner requested staff to evaluate the traffic calming measures, potential traffic calming measures on Adamsville Avenue. And Adamsville Avenue is the two-way winding road with one travel lane in each direction. On-street parking is allowed, and it's in the residential area with 25 miles per hour signs. And the staff worked with a traffic engineering consultant, Kimley Horn, and we have Maya Boucher here with us today. They looked at the area, at the road, at the conditions, geometric and other potential solutions for the potential solutions for the traffic calming. And Maya is here to make a presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maya Boucher. I am with Kimley Horn & Associates. I'm happy to be here with you this evening. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing with the city, really get your feedback. These are just sort of some preliminary thoughts, but the intention is that we get feedback from all of you and continue with this effort forward. So just wanted to start a little bit with the project area. So Adamsville Avenue, we're looking at the section that is bordered by Ettingham Avenue to the north, and then it extends to the south at Summit to Summit Mountain Way. Now this is going to be the edge of the city boundary. And as you can see from this graphic here, the roadway is highlighted in green. It's fairly windy. It starts in a residential area and then it ends in a fairly open space area. The community has voiced some concerns about speeding. In the northbound direction, there is a decline. So people tend to speed. Let's see if you can see my mouse. So it is downhill as you come here and then extends into this community. So there's concerns about speeding. Couple different facts about this area and just sort of the existing conditions. Tatiana had mentioned some of them. It's a two-way winding road. There's on-street parking, 25 miles per hour speed limit, and primarily runs through a residential area. There's a steep grade, and the area experiences downhill speeding. So we looked at several different options and wanted to kind of get your thoughts about these different options. We'll provide some kind of recommendations and what we think towards the end. But we considered several different options and some of the considerations that come with those options. So the first thing that we looked at are speed legends. Couple different things with speed legends to think about. They're painted numerals on the roadway. They indicate legal speed limits. They catch drivers' attention, and then they influence reduction in vehicle speeds. One other thing that's helpful with these is in areas where there might be limited visibility, where you can't see a sign, you're coming around a curve, or maybe you have vegetation, they can also help reinforce the speed limit. Now, we wanted to consider some of the advantages and disadvantages of each of the options that we looked at. So some advantages of speed legends: they're inexpensive to install. They do not impact emergency vehicles, which we know is very important in this area. Disadvantages: they do require periodic maintenance, so there will be some maintenance involved. And I should also mention that all these different options we look at are relatively low-cost treatments, so we're looking at something that we can fairly easily implement. So you'll see that with all of these different options. The second option are optical speed bars. So these are effective on curved roads. They're painted stripes across the roadway, and they're spaced gradually to decrease at gradually decreasing distances to kind of give this perception of speed causing the driver to slow down. So some advantages with optical speed bars is they reduce speeds. They're inexpensive to install. Some disadvantages: they are considered experimental treatments with the MUTCD. The long-term effects in residential areas are unknown, and this does also increase regular maintenance that's needed. We also looked at some signage treatments. So one of the signage treatments we looked at is chevron signs. Now these are guides, then basically take the driver through a horizontal curve. They're a good way to get their attention and also to sort of outline that curve. They're often placed in advance of the horizontal curve too, just to warn the driver of what is going to emerge. Some advantages: it warns of an approaching curve, provides tracking and guidance to drivers, and then in disadvantages, it can create excessive signage, and then it may also cause some confusion or that sort of potential risk of sign pollution, so having kind of too many signs out there. The other signage that we looked at are advanced curve warning signs. These are installed in advance of unexpected conditions on a roadway, and they may be accompanied by an advisory speed sign. The advantages of an advanced curve warning sign is that advanced curve warning signs provide, sort of this advanced warning of unexpected or sharp curves, and it is a visual warning. Once again, the disadvantage would be that it may cause confusion or sign pollution, but I will say that with these, you typically don't have to place as many as the one that we showed previously. So based on what we looked at, some initial recommendations to help speeding in this area would include, and this is what we recommend, is speed legends to reinforce the speed limit, advanced curve warning signs to sort of complement that, and then some additional strategies that we considered that could help support these strategies would be mobile speed feedback signs to get data to see how effective these treatments are, and then also enforcement of the area. And then just some kind of initial locations. I think this is pretty conceptual at this point, but just to kind of give you an idea, I think what we could do is we could place the curve warning signs obviously in advance of the curve warning, and then we would also paint the numerals. This could be done in both directions, but I think based on the way that things are geometrically, or I should say the sort of slope of the area, we would really want to focus on the northbound direction over the southbound direction. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maya. Let me ask you a question. Well, I think this is more for you, Philip, or the team. But what are we using currently within the city that's more consistent? Is it speed legends and the curvature sign that you mentioned?
Well, I did notice a speed. I did notice a speed legend leading up to City Hall and a
I've
speed
seen
feedback
one too.
sign. So I
Yeah,
think those
yeah.
are consistent.
Yeah.
But let
Okay.
me let the city weigh in.
You're absolutely correct, Maya. We do use speed legends where we notice that it might be helpful, visible and helpful for the drivers to pay attention to the speed limits.
Right.
We do use, in more rural areas, we do use curvature signs with the advanced warning signs. We don't use too many chevron signs in the city, but that we think it's the additional option that would come after the recommended
Okay.
measures.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Tatiana. Okay, great.
Question?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm just curious, are there studies that indicate what seems to be most effective in these situations? Because this is a problem not just on Adamsville, it's really bad there because it's a steep hill. But all over the city, I find, I've lived near Parview Drive, where if you're out there after 10 o'clock at night taking a walk or anything, and people are just blowing through the stop signs and everything. I'm just curious, in your research, anything show what seems to be most effective in curbing people's behavior, bad behavior?
Do you want to weigh on this? I was going to say, I mean, it really depends on the conditions. I'll be honest, not everyone is going to obey what you put out there, but having some sort of additional message to support that is helpful. I will say from like a speed limit standpoint, if you don't see it, you can kind of ignore it, right? So having something to support it could help. There are some studies out there about, the improvement. I think for us, we're thinking about different low-cost treatments so that we can sort of assess initially and see what that improvement is, and then see if additional measures need to be taken. But yes, Tatiana, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
Yes, I just wanted to say all kinds of measures that we recommend and implement, they're targeting the responsible driver. But it's always helpful, and as Maya mentioned in her presentation, it will be coupled with enforcement and speed feedback sign, which is also, they're helpful. At some point, of course, people start ignoring them, but if they're maintained, especially if we're talking about the pavement markings. Of course, they tend to fade with time, but if they're properly maintained and they're very visible for responsible driver, were helpful. And we're thinking about this as being a first step. We introduced the traffic calming guidelines 2 years ago to the commission, and there are different levels of traffic calming measures. So that would be the first step that we can just install with support of the commissioners and see how effective they are. And if we need to look at more serious traffic calming measures, then that would be next step, and it will require more support. We will need to have some kind of a survey of the residences there, if there is anything else we can implement at that point.
Wonderful,
Mr. Chair?
Tatiana, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
actually have a question. Will the Wi-Fi signs help us, give us some data back that we can pass along and help with enforcement, targeted enforcement?
Absolutely, absolutely. Those signs, and we're planning to install them to collate the recent data before we implement this measure. So we'll have the data prior to installation, and once we'll install signs and pavement markings, we'll also will return with the speed feedback sign and collect the data after for some period of time. So we do have data to support if it's effective or not.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tatiana.
If I may, because I live on that street, and we have been witnessed, car being demolished, mailboxes have been swept away, and all of those things has happened during the past decades, 2 decades that I've been living on that street. But I think one of the things that has been missed is that to break that consistency of going downhill, which at the Kern Lock intersection of Kern Lock and Adamsville, there could be, like hypothetically speaking, a stop sign being installed. So people who are coming down the hill, they will stop there. They don't get a chance to speed up and continue speeding down the hill. That might be something to look into if it's feasible option or not.
Installation of a speed sign, we cannot just install stop sign at any intersection. That research needs to be done, and the data needs to support. It has to be warranted. The stop sign, there is not enough traffic there for stop sign to be installed.
Well, that's the part that I'm not aware, what does it take? That's why I'm putting it as a proposal on the table to look into that. I don't know, because that street has decent amount of traffic going back and forth. So that's one option. But painting on the asphalt, zero effect. Don't waste even a penny on that. I wouldn't do that at all. You got to be physically in front of people to see if that makes any difference. Like, I don't know, the second option that you mentioned was speed bar or something. If I'm not mistaken, you went through that so fast, and I don't have a printed copy. So the ones that you install on the ground on the side of the roads that goes down, what are those called? There,
These ones? These are
Yeah.
optical speed bars.
At least this is something physical. When people come down, as you mentioned, if they're going too fast, they will notice that, they will come down. That would be my thoughts to share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tatiana, I do have a quick question. While collecting data through the Wi-Fi signage, what is the appropriate timeline? I know you had mentioned we would collect data, and then we would, for a period of time. What typically is that appropriate timeline to collect that data and then use it appropriately?
We usually rotate sign throughout the city. We can leave it there in one location for about 2 weeks, because
Okay.
after that it's not effective anymore. People get used to it, and then that's the strategy is we can install it on the same street but in a different location and bring it back in a few months.
Understood. And we're not talking about a fixed sign. We're talking about a mobile sign, right? Like that mobile. Okay.
Correct.
Understood. Which you highlighted, right, Maya? Okay, good. I got it. Wonderful. So our call to action then, Tatiana, on this particular agenda is to what are we looking to achieve with this? Is this something that we want to take to council and approach them with, or is this something that we she'll vote on internally and then move forward on.
We
With
don't
staff.
have to take this to council.
Okay.
We heard the recommendations about the speed bars. We can do a little bit more research and see what locations would be appropriate for the speed bumps and maybe curvature signs. If you think that installation of the speed pavement markings are not effective, and we can, with your recommendation, we can proceed with that installation without bringing it back to the commission.
I obviously, the commissioner to my right would like to see something that has to do with optical speed bars. Is that something that we can take a look at in comparison to the alternative, which was recommended, Maya, by you? I'm indifferent on this. I agree with Tatiana. I agree with Philip that people are going to behave as they behave, and we're not here to enforce the law. But if there's an encouragement that optical speed bars, which I'm quite frankly not really familiar with, and I don't believe we have that interfacing anywhere in our city, correct?
Correct.
So I don't believe that I would not vote for that in this particular area.
Heath?
Yeah.
I've never seen them before either.
Right.
And my guess is that if I was driving and I saw them, I would wonder what the hell they were for. That without speed legends in conjunction with those, I think they'd be meaningless. People would just be scratching their heads saying, I'm not sure what I saw, but I don't know what it means.
But the big item is it's not going to stop them or prevent them from speeding for the most part, right? And the idea is, and Mike brought up a very good point, are the other signage elements going to do that? But we have to try something, and then that way we can turn around and collect the data. So I would vote to approve this particular go forward, and I'll take it to the commissioners.
I'll second it.
Okay. So help me wrap this up, Tatiana or Philip.
We heard that your recommendation is to proceed with
Correct.
level 1 traffic calming measures, which are installation of pavement markings
Yes,
for
ma'am.
the speed legend
Yep.
and the curve sign with warning sign for the speed limit.
Correct. So no voting?
Thought we just
No.
We did. Okay.
take a motion.
Good. So, so moving on to the second agenda item, Adamsville Avenue traffic calming. And again, thank you, Maya. Thank you, Tatiana, for that.
It also will be me. I will introduce and give a little bit of history on this item and how it came to the commission. And I will let Maya to give a presentation after that. So the history on that, at the intersection of Agora Road and Lost Hills Road, there used to be a designated right turn lane on Agora Road going northbound direction to turn eastbound direction on Agora. I'm sorry, on Lost Hills Road going northbound direction to turn eastbound direction on Agora. Maya, if you can please help me to point to that movement. Following the construction of the Lost Hills interchange with the different striping and alignment of the travel lanes on the bridge, we had to restripe that intersection to eliminate that right turn, and it just became a true traffic lane. We've heard from people, especially after it's been striped for designated right turn for so many years, that the traffic, especially morning commute traffic, blocks that intersection, and that right turn traffic needs to wait for a green light. They're not able to make a right turn on red. We we've been looking at that and realized that it's not just simple restriping. We need to look at the entire stretch of the road from that intersection all the way to the interchange to make sure the all travel lanes are aligned. We consider the bike movement also, the bike lane. We consider all the safety for all users of the road. And that's when we worked also with traffic engineering consultant Kimley Horn to come with options how we can restripe that stretch so we are able to provide that designated right turn lane of traffic, as well as align on all the through lanes and make sure the bicycle movement is also safe. So today we have a presentation by Kimley Horn, and Maya, could you please introduce the options?
Sure. Thank you so much, Tatiana. So Tatiana provided a great overview. So this is the current conditions of the roadway. Right here is one of the areas that she mentioned, and then also right in here is another kind of critical intersection. So when we're looking at Lost Hills and Agora Road right now, this is currently a through right turn. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can restripe this corridor to better accommodate the movements. There is a lot of congestion in this area caused by the nearby freeway, and we think that there's a couple different options to improve the conditions here. So a couple facts about this area and some of the existing conditions is the 101 is quite close to this intersection, creating a lot of congestion. There's heavy morning southbound movements and then heavy evening northbound movements at Lost Hills and Agora Road. There's existing Class 2 bike lanes on Agora Road and Malibu Hills Road, which are the west and east directions. And then it's important to note that within the city's bicycle master plan, there are future Class 2 bike lanes which are identified on Lost Hills Road from the US 101 ramps all the way down to Mulholland Highway, which is where eventually Lost Hills turns into Las Virgenes. So we came up with a couple different concepts, and I think it's really important to note that while this may look like a design plan, and it is somewhat of a design plan, it is very conceptual, so just keep that in mind. It is not a construction plan by any means. We wanted to create some conceptual plans to sort of get your feedback and talk about it and see if that's something that we want to move forward with. We have two different options. The first one is Concept A, and it's important to note that the two concepts are exactly the same here, but we changed it slightly here. So the black box here will remain the same between the two concepts, but you'll see some slight deviations, which I'll highlight in the green box here. So a couple things for Concept A. So you'll see here that we have created another lane, which is great. So we have a right turn, we have a through, we have another through, and then we have our left turn pocket. And then I'll talk a little bit more about what is happening here. So at the intersection here, we have created a striped buffer zone, which is shown in A. And this creates a buffer zone between the bike lane that we've striped and the through traffic. We've also created transitional striping, which is shown in green. And this is to help let drivers know of bikes that could be crossing through the intersection. So it creates awareness. One thing to note that you'll see kind of a difference between this concept and the next concept I'll show you is there is a slight offset, but it is really minor. I don't see an issue with it in terms of bikes navigating it, but it's just something to note in terms of the differences of what I'll show you in Concept B. So Concept B, once again, same configuration here. We create a right turn and we have a through lane. And then from here, what we've done is a little bit different, which I'll highlight on the next slide. So at this point, in Concept B, there is a corrected offset, which you can see here that it's a straighter line across the intersection for the cyclist. But what this does is it creates a more narrow buffer between the through traffic here and the bikes that are going straight through. And then the buffer, though, is more emphasized between the right turn pocket and the bike lane. So I think what's important to note here is typically when we create a bike lane, we want to have more of a buffer zone between the through traffic, because typically, yes, go ahead. You have a question?
I'm confused. So we're looking at Lost Hills Road, correct?
Yes, so this is Lost Hills right here.
So well, I guess what I'm confused about is you're referring to it as an east and west segment, shouldn't it be a north and south segment?
This is a north and south, sorry.
Right,
Yes.
but on your next slide, go forward one. It says corrects offset. from
Oh, I'm
east
sorry.
and-
Yes, it should be north and south.
It
Yes.
should.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And the same thing, let's see. Oh, just there, yeah. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. So one other thing is the buffer, like I said, the buffer zone is more emphasized between the bike lane and the right turn pocket, but when we're looking at bike striping, we want to create a larger buffer between the through traffic, because typically they are moving faster than someone making a right turn pocket. So with this in mind, for us, we believe that concept A is a better option because it creates that larger buffer zone. You still get the benefits of providing facilities for bicycle connectivity, which is consistent with the bicycle master plan. You create a large buffer zone between the through traffic and cyclists, and then you also include the transitional striping across the intersection to make drivers aware of cyclist presence. And then the last part, which I think is one of the most important parts, is it maintains the intent of the improvement project to create a dedicated right turn lane and then also keep that through lane so that we can alleviate congestion in this area.
That's great. Thank you, Maya. Appreciate that. Let me ask you a quick question. We all know that area is that's our commercial office area, right? So we have there are a tremendous amount of tenants, cheesecake factories over there, a lot of employees, and that's a very heavy pedestrian area. So when they're, of course, crossing the street to go over to the food courts or Erewhon or wherever they're going, the Summit. Thank you. So right now, is that if we go with something like this, is that going to solve the pedestrian issue? How do we kind of, or is that, are we still going to have the same problem with traffic congestion in that right-hand turn lane?
No, the pedestrian movements will stay as they are right now.
Okay.
I understand what you're talking about if we allow right turn on red, but that's very standard intersection with a pedestrian crosswalk and allowed right turn on red. Vehicle drivers need to yield to pedestrian at
Right.
the intersection, so there still will be. We'll have to look, of course, at the signal timing once we'll implement the change, because there were certain changes made after the interchange was constructed and that lane eliminated. So that will, of course, will happen as well. We'll look at the timing to make sure that pedestrians have enough time to cross the street. We will have additional signs installed for pedestrian crosswalk, so that will be taken into consideration the safety of the pedestrian.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tatiana. No further questions from me, commissioners?
Well, based on what I heard, I agree with your suggestion on concept A. It makes a lot of sense to go that way, so my recommendation personally would be that.
I would second what Mike says, concept A. Your recommendation?
So what will be our next steps with this, Tatiana?
I just would like to add a couple more things. So as Maya mentioned, it's a conceptual plan, but we heard your recommendations or your comments on that, so we can proceed with the final plan. I just would like to mention a few things. Since the intersection with on-ramp is a Caltrans intersection, we also need to go through Caltrans to get their permits, so it will take some time to get this plan ready for implementation. And also to mention that this treatment for the bike lane, you saw on the concept drawing that we are introducing this green paint for the bike lane. This will be something new that we haven't implemented in the city of Calabasas yet. Although I'm sure you've seen those kind of treatments. I think there are cities around us, also Thousand Oaks, I think, have this kind of treatment. Ventura, Santa Monica, downtown Los Angeles. So that will be something new, and I think it would be a great start also to introduce that bike lane treatment in Calabasas.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Yeah.
I have one question. This green light, green color that you're introducing, is it going to be the whole path or just the lines are going to be green? Because what I've seen in other cities is the whole path is painted green.
We recommend it, Maya, if you can. I know you have looked into that.
No, it's a great question. I will say there are some places, but it does cause additional maintenance challenges. So
Yes.
what it does help is that way you make people aware in those transition zones. Those are going to be the most crucial, but you don't have to paint the entire bike lane. So our recommendation would be just to strategically place that green paint. And like I said, right now it's just conceptual, but it kind of gives you an idea of where we would put that paint, which would be in those kind of transition zones across the intersection. So that'd be our recommendation.
And my understanding is that after this, you get the approval and you get it done, we can expand this across the city, right? Because we don't see that anywhere else. We haven't seen it yet.
It is very common in other cities. I mean, if you go to downtown Ventura, throughout all of city of Ventura.
No, I'm talking about our city.
You are correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to agenda 3, Parkville Road raised crosswalk. Tatiana.
Thank you. I would like to introduce our assistant engineer, been new to our team. In addition, he's been with us as a part-time engineer, and now he's full-time, and his name is Suhail.
Wonderful.
And he will be giving presentation on the next item.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Suhail.
Thank you. Hello. This project was brought up because people in the neighborhood in in the Saratoga Hills neighborhood community asked for a petition, asked for safety enhancement to cross Parkville Road to get to the park, our Grape Harbor Park, and they did a petition and let the city know through emails, and basically they initially requested for having speed humps installed at 2 locations along the Parkville Road, but our city traffic consultant decided to, through communications with them, explain to them how it's more practical and how it's better to enhance the safety if we were to go with a raised crosswalk. So basically, let me just go to. So as you can see, we have as you can see, this was the initial proposed areas for speed humps, but there were some problems with it because the one in the south is too close to the intersection, and the one in the north, the problem with that is because the advanced warning sign for the hump would be too close to the turn on Hubman Drive, so it wouldn't give enough time to drivers basically to adjust their speed for this hump on the north. So we decided to go with the raised crosswalk, and here's one example on Park Sienna, which this is like an older picture, but right now it's striped and it has the continental striping on top of it, so and people are quite satisfied with using it. As for the location of the crosswalk, we thought it would be more practical to the neighborhood if it was installed right right before the driveway, and it would allow for more people to use it, and basically that's where and this is like a preliminary design, and the layout. So we would have ramps for 12 feet ramps to adjust for the height difference in a easier, like a softer approach to the raised crosswalk, so it doesn't create too much vertical movement for the cars, but at the same time it brings up their attention to the crosswalk. And we would have a 10 feet crosswalk zone where people can cross, and we have two options so far. We can go with ADA compliant curb ramps on each side that would connect to the existing sidewalk, but that would obviously cost more to go with that option. Our second option would be to just connect the sidewalk using another concrete panel, and basically just create a through path from each sidewalk to the other one. And in that case, we would just need to allow for the flow of water on the gutters, in that case we would use culverts to just let the water flow. And this is
I'm so sorry. Can I ask a question here, or I should wait until the end?
Of course you can ask.
You know, because I like this raised crosswalk, but the actual the path that the pedestrians are going to walk on, there are 4 feet on the right and 4 feet to the left. That it's kind of creates a ramp to get to that point, right? You said, and this drawing shows 4 feet. Am I right?
The 4%.
Oh, that
4%.
would be 4% slope
grade.
over.
4% grade.
Yeah.
So what's the distance from that
So-
point before they get to that height of that actual crosswalk?
Right.
12 feet.
Yeah. So we would allow 12 feet, 4% over 12 feet, and it would come up to 6 inches at the top of the crosswalk.
So for someone who, let's say hypothetically, is over speeding, and then all of a sudden gets to this beginning of that 12 feet and hits the brakes, is it long enough to stop before hitting someone who's crossing? Because that's the whole point, right?
Right.
Maybe we need to put a speed hump before that in order to warn them, in order to slow down a little bit, or something, or I don't know, maybe the grooved pavement that they do, they wake them up or something, to pay more attention.
So in order to address that, we implemented two things. First, we would have signage, advanced warning signs, which are based on MUTCD, and all the distances are based on MUTCD and the speed along that Parkville Road. So they would have proper signage to let them know. And the second thing to consider is that we have the same sort of situation on Park Sienna, as I showed in the example, and it's sort of working really good. Like, yeah, so based on past experiences and having all these proper signages based on the standards, I think it would be enough to let the drivers know and be aware of the upcoming raised crosswalk.
Okay. Thank you. Continue, please. Sorry.
So if you don't have any questions with the striping and everything, I can.
So I actually do have a question. So regarding the ADA versus the concrete panel with the pathway, so do we have? I'm under the impression that we might want to look into the ADA side first before we invest into. Even though it's going to cost more, I think it's the appropriate step and measure to take to just kind of look into it and then see where we are with that.
I think if you have the panel, it comes across at the grade with the sidewalk.
So theoretically,
if
it's
you're in a
already
wheel-
graded in. It's already level at point of entry.
So if you're in a wheelchair, you'd go across, you would go right onto the sidewalk.
Understood. So
And
then,
you'd have culverts for water to flow underneath.
then that's perfect. Okay, that's great. That's
Yes,
great.
correct. Let me just add, absolutely correct. So we
Thank you.
looked at the different height of the raised crosswalk, and that's what Sohail referred to create the ADA ramp and create the raised crosswalk 4 inches high versus 6. And we look at the option with 6-inch, that it will be flash with the sidewalks,
Right.
and then we don't need additional ramps
Mhm.
to make it ADA compliant. To go even a little bit further, with our preliminary design, we already contacted the fire department and asked them about their opinion, because that's another consideration we have to be very serious about for the emergency vehicle.
Mhm.
We have a preliminary letter from them that said if that's the safety concern and that's what the engineers recommend, that they don't have any issue with that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Tatiana. Thank you, Sohail.
You're welcome. So
We're saying we
yeah.
go up, what did it say, 6 inches over 12 feet?
Mhm.
Seems
Yeah.
fairly
Yeah.
modest.
I agree.
So the funding for this project, we're thinking about taking it from 3 options that we have: the Transportation Development Act funding, the Measure R, and Measure M. And it would be, after going through council and getting the approvals, it would be something that then, based on the funding that we have, we're gonna decide which one we're gonna use. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Well, I think that obviously that area in Grape Arbor needs some signage and crosswalk for sure. So I know I personally would vote that we approve this and allow staff to take this to City Council.
Yeah, I second that. Raised crosswalk is a good choice.
I'm in favor.
Okay, wonderful.
Do
Then,
we have a proposed cost on it?
do we have a proposed cost on this, Sohail?
Not at the moment, but I will provide a cost estimate for the whole project. Yeah.
If you would, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, we're the conceptual design right now. The next step would be proceed with the final design and cost estimate.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Tatiana. So moving on to our next agenda item, micro transit program. And I believe Treya, is this your doing? Okay, wonderful.
That's Treya.
Awesome.
Little bit of musical chairs. Okay. Hello, good night. How are you? So this is a discussion on microtransit options for the city. So a little bit of background. In February, council approved the creation of a pilot demand response, or microtransit as I'll be calling it from now on, program on using our existing contract for dial-a-ride services with Ideal General Services. Council requested that staff bring new ideas to create a permanent microtransit program, and commission also requested this. And so staff began meeting with various service providers and program managers from other organizations to see what options are out there for us and to bring them to you tonight. So the discussion is going to kind of start off with where are we now, what are the needs of our residents, what are other people doing, what are our options, and where do we go from here? So right now, the pilot has so far been a really big success with over 70 riders average per month. And remember, this program is only on the weekend. So it's only operating on Saturdays and Sundays, and it's getting about 70 riders every month. And then in order to get an idea of what a full program could look like, we can use data from Line 1, which operates Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., to show weekday demand if we were to expand it and have it run Monday through Sunday. And then just a little perspective, Line 1 averages 480 riders per month. So what are the needs of our residents? In order to create a successful program, we need to look at what our residents need out of a transit program. For example, why do our residents need this type of service? It could be for flexibility, for efficiency, for number of reasons. What kinds of destinations do they need? Right now we're servicing within the entire city limits, as well as 10 additional destinations outside of city limits in order to go to shopping malls, entertainment centers, and religious centers. We also need to ensure that we're following ADA and ZEV requirements, zero emission vehicle requirements, which I will talk about in my transit update. And then do we want bike racks? So these are all just a few of the things that we're kind of here to discuss. And I want, at the end of this presentation, to really hear your opinion on what you think the residents here need in order to start looking to the future. So I wanted to provide a quick snapshot on what other cities are doing around us. So Agora Hills has their AH Go program, and they utilize Spare is the service provider, and it allows demand to be shifted to Lyft. So that's kind of like, these are all just highlights from all of these different things. Metro Micro next door in LA, they offer stop-to-stop service in specific zones, so you can only pick it up and get dropped off at specific bus stops. The Antelope Valley Transit Authority only connects rural areas to transit centers. They're only operating in places that don't have existing transit. The Long Beach Circuit offers free electric low-speed vehicles during peak times downtown. And Go Santa Clarita offers shuttle buses similar to the size that we have in order to have a higher demand capability. So some of our options that we should be looking at are, do we want a mobile app? So far, that has been what council really wants. They want to make sure that we have a mobile app. We need to ensure ADA compliance and ZEV goals again. We need to look at if we want to just have a software or if we want something that's turnkey and also provides us with those vehicles and drivers along with the software service. And do we want to commingle with other transit? So do we want to ensure that our microtransit knows, hey, the LA DOT Commuter Express is going to be here at this time. These people who are trying to get on it, we need to ensure that they get there on time. So those are some of the options that we have available to us. And again, there's so many more options depending on what we decide our needs are going to be. So where do we go from here? First step, talking to you guys, see what you guys have to say about this, and then I will be requesting that you recommend this to council. After I get a whole idea of what we want for this program, it'll end up going to RFP, and I will discuss funding. So the fiscal impact on this is, currently we're using propositions A and C. For the pilot program, we can continue to use this money, but we will probably need to find a grant for startup costs. And actually, today I started working on a grant through the California Air Resources Board for clean transportation funding. And so I would like to recommend that you guys discuss options and give me an idea of what we need so I can recommend to council.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Treya. So interestingly enough, where is our microtransit going currently? Where are some of the stops?
So in the packet, attachment B, so it goes everywhere. You're allowed to go anywhere in the city. Plus we have 10 additional stops, the Canoga G Line station, Kaiser Permanente, Fallbrook Center, Topanga Plaza, and attachment C, I should have kept these in the presentation, my apologies. It kind of shows the areas that people have been going.
Got it.
And so that gives you a good idea. But my concern, as I talked about in my staff report, is there's a lot more, most of the rides are being conducted inside of city limits.
Okay.
And so do people need to be going to these places? And the answer might be maybe not on the weekend, but still during the weekday.
Got it. And right now, we're only running on the weekends.
Correct.
But we are doing Kaiser runs during the weekend and everything that you've highlighted here, correct?
Mhm.
Okay,
Correct.
wonderful. And is this service offered primarily to city residents, or can people that exist outside the city actually take advantage of this particular microtransit?
Anybody can use it,
Okay.
but right now it has been marketed more towards residents, and I believe
Yeah.
only residents have taken so far.
Got it, okay.
I forgot, is there a cost to use it?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's $2.50 inside city limits, $4 outside city limits each way.
And do you just pay as you go, or you have to have a membership sign up or something like that? Or it's
You pay as you go. So right now you make a call to a service provider and tell them where you are, when you want to be picked up, and they come get you, and then they take cash card for the payment.
And if one of the options that you presented was mobile app, which obviously it's one of definite ways of setting this up. If that happens, they don't need to call. They just go on the mobile app and they schedule it, right?
Correct. But
And they can even pay with a credit card over there. They have an account set up and all of that.
exactly. One thing that I want to make a note of for ADA compliance, though, is we still will have the option to call in or to have a desktop app as well, because not everybody has a mobile phone.
Yeah.
That's true.
that's true.
So what the way that it appears to me, mobile app is a must-have.
Yes.
So it's no question about if or buts, right?
I had a question about two of your numbers.
Mhm.
Somewhere in here it said, estimated cost at $103 per passenger, then down to $45 a passenger roughly,
Mhm.
right? So in the scheme of city government, what is considered, what's the bar for something being like this being cost effective?
Public transit isn't supposed to be cost effective is kind of the true answer. I actually was surprised at how cost effective our line 1 was. I thought it was going to be much higher than it is. So in my mind, if we can get our pilot down to something closer to our line 1, that would be very efficient for us. And that's also, right now we're already running an efficient program as far as Metro is concerned, and they're the ones paying for it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, sort of. I don't know. I'm just, when you say currently there's 70 riders a month, is that correct? That doesn't seem like very many.
Over 8 days per month.
It's only
Yeah.
weekends.
Yeah.
So it definitely has places to grow.
I'm not putting it down. I'm
No, I
just
know.
curious as to what the bar is for saying this is a good program.
Sometimes that's gonna be a social question
Yeah.
that you and the council have to answer, because those 70 riders don't have any other way to get there, other than
Yeah.
maybe walk.
No,
But
I
it may
get
be
that.
too far a distance to walk. So it is a little bit of a social question that you need to answer.
Right, and Treya, thank you for this. I mean, we're identifying the metric, right? I mean, we don't have a benchmark to go off of. So, the one thing I would ask is as we continue to do this, are we going to add more stops here within the city over the next? I mean, how do you see this scaling through staff over the next? Well, I know you want to take this to council at some point, but you're going to want our recommendations on ideas, which we can get back to you on. And we should table a date for that so the commissioners could put together their thoughts and give that to you in presentation. What are your thoughts to adding additional stops within the city or outside of the city?
So unlike Metro Micro, we don't have any stops. We are door to door.
Oh, okay. Well, there it is. That answers that question, doesn't it?
So the
Thank you.
expansion that we hope to have is to just increase the number of days that it's operating.
Got it. Understood. Okay.
If you don't mind going a couple slides back to where those options of commingling, right here, with other transit, what exactly you're referring to? Because that sounds, from the name of it, it can be an extremely efficient way to go in near future on that. Can you elaborate on that? What exactly it means with other transits?
So, for example, already Metro, you can go on your phone, download the Metro app, and you can see exactly where all of the buses are at any time. You can see if it's running late. You can see if it's running early. What this would do is work with that app to tell our app, hey, this bus is running early. You have people on your van who need to get to that stop to get on their bus. You need to get there sooner than later, kind of thing. So maybe don't pick up this person who isn't making a connection or transfer, and instead we're going to direct you to go straight there so that they ensure they get their stop. That's essentially what it would do and the benefit of it. Or coming back, so people who are working in LA who take the Commuter Express downtown, they're coming back, and so the van will be there waiting for them. They don't have to wait at the stop for 10, 15 minutes. It knows that people are going to be getting off and utilizing the service.
Okay. Very good. Very smart.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, Tatiana, Philip, is this something that we would discuss with you from a commission perspective in terms of identifying some dates to get back to Treya in response to this?
Actually, this is the time for you to give us some feedback. If you have more questions to understand the kind of universe of things that we want you to comment on. But this is then scheduled to go to the city council. So these meetings are your opportunity to tell us what you think.
Okay, wonderful.
And if you need
So-
more information from us, ask us and we'll provide what we can.
Great. Thank you for the clarity. I think I obviously I'm a fan of this. I think that we need this in our community, and obviously 70 people using it is fantastic. I mean, 8 days a month. So I could see this actually being something that really helps, our other residents and all of our residents within the city of Calabasas. And I would vote that we continue to move on this. So anything that you need from me, I would support that. Commissioners? Vote to approve?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, but I want to emphasize on those options that they've laid out, and the first one, mobile app, and the last one, commingled with other transits, seems to be very, very crucial.
Yeah, I think, to my understanding, Treya, correct me if I'm wrong, but to my understanding, this is still all part of your research and everything that you're putting together on this. So the commingling with other transit systems is something you're going to look into automatically, correct?
So at this point, what I'm asking from you guys is, what should I include in my RFP? So I've done the research, I've completed it. What I'm asking now is, as representatives of our community, what do you think is important to our community, so that I can organize the research that I've already done in order to ask these service providers to provide me with what they have to offer us.
Understood. So thank you for that. So then I would say obviously commingling with other transit is important to add. The mobile app, I mean, that is definitely something we need. ADA compliance, I think everything that you've highlighted here really falls in line with what I would at Surface agree to. I think our community needs if we were to expand this, perhaps even, 2 days a week, just so we could really start getting some traction and some data on those that are using this type of service. Maybe, just that little bit more, I think it would really translate well to council, and maybe we'd be able to see where we could go with this, even grow it, expand upon it. So that would be my recommendation, commissioners.
I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah, I think I spoke enough about this, my point of view on that. Yeah, I agree with you
Okay.
for the most part.
Wonderful.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Treya. All right, so moving on to our transit updates as our agenda item, I think we go right back to Treya.
Hi again, give me 1 second. So yes, I will be providing the transit update as well. So this is our most of our numbers from this entire past year. So we had an average monthly ridership on line 1, our Monday through Friday service, 480, as mentioned in the previous item. Lines 2 through 5, our peak hour transit had an average monthly ridership of 2,500. And as I mentioned in the staff report, that is a pretty good increase from last year. So it's good to see that we're getting back from, the COVID numbers and everything, and people are starting to use transit again. And then our demand response has been averaging 70. Since we last met, we have had 6 new dial-a-ride users sign up. The trolley came back and is operating between Memorial Day and Labor Day on Saturdays. And the beach back is back until August 18th, Monday through Friday as well. So this is kind of just a little graph showing our ridership. You can see where it peaks in September and May, and that kind of aligns with, school and everything. People trying it out, then people in June and August going back, no more school. And it's pretty consistent throughout the year. On fleet electrification, the zero-emission bus rollout plan was due to CARB, the California Air Resources Board, in July, the beginning of this month. Council approved it last month through resolution, and CARB accepted the plan this morning. We got the email this morning. And then we were also granted we were awarded a grant by Metro through the local transit subcommittee for the future purchase of 2 electric shuttles and 1 dual charger. So that will help give us a good head start on achieving our ZEB goals. And as always, there's other grants and programs to look into. Funds used to operate and maintain our public transportation services are Prop A, Prop C, Measure R and M, and the TDA 3. And then because state and federal funds are used for capital procurement and operations, the city is subject to multiple annual audits conducted by Metro and the FTA, and now California Air Resources Board. And staff is obligated to ensure compliance with specific regulations associated with each funding source. And this is an informational item and requires no action.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I know the beach bus is just a huge success. So that's really great to see that everyone is using this. Was that 2,500 a month on the other zone line 2 through 5?
Correct.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's fantastic. Wonderful. Great job, staff. Commissioners, anything to add?
No.
Okay.
Nothing to add.
Then moving on to, thank you, Treya, by the way. Moving on to division report, Old Topanga Canyon Road, Mulholland Highway Improvements Project update.
It'll be a quick division report with the updates for this month or since we last met. And I just would like to give you some updates on the project that is construction currently, and I'm sure you're all familiar with it. It's the improvements on Old Topanga and Mulholland Highway. And where we are right now is the contractor started working on the soil nail wall. It's close to the intersection with Old Topanga Canyon East, which is near the Calabasas High School. And we are currently working, staff and the contractor, we're currently working with a couple of companies for the utility. It's being Southern California Edison. Since they need to relocate, they need to do a couple of relocations. They're relocating anchors so we can finish the connection of the sidewalk from the Wild Walnut Park all the way to the intersection near the high school. And we're also working with the water district, Las Virgenes Municipal Water District, on a relocation of the water lines. And that work will be scheduled soon. We will have more updates through our media, through communications. So we'll have water district will give notifications, and the city will work on notifications to make sure it's communicated well through residents that are affected and through the schools. Then the next project that's currently in construction, it's actually nearing completion. It's the 2023 annual street resurfacing project, and this year the major location was Park Granada, resurfacing of Park Granada, and we did also a few dig outs on Parkway Calabasas, Las Virgenes Road, and on Calabasas Highlands. And the work that still needs to be completed is installation of traffic loops, which is scheduled to be completed next week. Striping is also coming up, and the project completion is targeted before mid-August. The next project, which is has not been started in construction yet, the City Council awarded a contract at the June 28th meeting. In construction, we already had a pre-construction meeting with the selected contractor. Construction start date is set for September 5th, which is also coming up. And construction end date is projected to be February 24th. And just give you kind of overview and a reminder what this project is all about. The location of this project is Las Virgenes Road north of Mount Calabasas Drive, all the way to the Las Virgenes Road terminus. And it will include stormwater treatments. We will provide bioswales, and ditches, multi-purpose trail, permeable parking areas. It will improve cul-de-sac at the north end to the standard design. It will provide several pedestrian crossings from one side of Las Virgenes to another, so they are able to access the parking areas and the trail. And it will also continue sidewalk on the west side. So basically, that's the area to be improved. Like the major improvements will be seen is on the dirt shoulder on Las Virgenes Road, where currently is very chaotic parking there. Mm-hmm. So that will be organized into the parking lots and the parallel parking along the curb. And the major, of course, one of the major benefits of the project is the stormwater treatment. And the last slide on my presentation is the Public Works Citizen Request. I apologize for it being a little bit too small, but we haven't met for a while, and I just wanted to give you information about what's been going on since January for this year. For the this month, we had 23 citizen requests, and since January, we have 130. And as always, or usual, typical, the leaders are the irrigation, the roadway conditions, and sidewalks, curbs, and signage. If you have any questions about any of this project or about the projects or about anything else, I'm here to be happy to answer.
Well, only if I could read this, but just kidding. I have one question, maybe it's on the list or not, but Park Aura and Old Topanga, when they cross each other, then we run to Park Sienna, if I'm not mistaken. Do you know which section I'm talking about?
I do know, is it something that we cannot discuss items that are not on agenda, so if it's,
Oh, because I don't know if the one that I'm talking about is on this list or not, but if, does it, because there is a part of the sidewalk that has been mudslide from when we had rain, and it's been still the same condition as left alone. Is that on this list at all, or?
no, that's not on the work on the Public Works citizen request. No, it's a separate project.
Oh, okay. So, but takes me to my initial question about do you have any deadline for the Mulholland project and Old Topanga? What's the deadline actually that needs to be completed?
Completion of the project, we are really working with the utility companies, so it depends on the work when the Southern California Edison will be done with the relocation. It's a big job for them. It's a relocation of big transmission poles.
Okay.
Currently, I don't have a set date, but I know that the relocation is scheduled for October. As soon as that relocation is completed, then we'll have a few items left on our project, and targeted date for completion would be a couple months after October. So it'll be by the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? No? No questions from me, Tatiana. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving into our division report, Old Topanga Canyon Road, Mulholland Highway Improvements Projects update.
That's what we just presented.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's a first meeting.
It is. And it's not going as rough as I truly thought it would go, Philip. So I feel okay. Then next on the agenda is the Green Street project update.
That was all included in the report.
So
Next
the-
item would be
The series of
future.
projects that you.
Yeah.
It was all of
It's
those.
all
Of
of
course.
those,
Now because even as I said that, it sounded familiar.
Yeah.
So, okay, good. So then we'll advance to future agenda items requests, traffic impact thresholds.
Yes, this item will be discussed at one of the future meetings.
Do we want to date that, Tatiana, or no? Leave open for now?
Next regular meeting is scheduled for October.
24th?
Yeah, it's the 4th Tuesday of
Yeah.
the month.
So maybe agendize that for October 24th? Or wait?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the next meeting.
Okay, good. Okay. Got it. Perfect. And then if there's no other comment, I think we can, do you have a comment?
I have a question.
Go ahead. Yep.
How do we, as commissioners, propose an item for the next agenda? Just put it out there?
Please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I would like us, I've been asking for years why there is no merge lane on Mulholland Highway immediately north of Freedom Drive. I mean, it's just a constant hazard, particularly in the mornings when you have southbound traffic going to AC Stell, Calabasas High School, and Chaparral Elementary School. You can't get out of the neighborhood. And there's no merge lane, so you can get a left turn to northbound Mulholland Highway. Instead, you have to wait until traffic clears in both directions. And unless you get real good at it, you can be waiting a long time. And I'd like the staff to look into that.
Yeah, I'll second that because I have had problems getting out of the gas station, the Shell gas
Exactly, it's the
station.
same thing. It's the street
Merging
at
with
the
the
Shell
traffic,
station.
yeah.
That's right. And I've looked at this for years and I've said, why don't they extend that merge lane? The merge lane sort of starts more or less in front of the Shell station, maybe just a little bit north of that to where the Gelson's driveways are. I don't understand why they don't extend those merge lanes up to Freedom Drive? Freedom, right?
Um,
Freedom Drive
yeah.
is the intersection, yeah.
Free.
Because that's where people in the Mulwood neighborhood are trying to turn left to go north virtually every day of the week.
Thank
Well-
you for suggesting the item.
We'll take the advice, we'll look at it, and then we'll schedule an item for you. Hesitant to talk too much about it because it's not agendized.
It's not agendized, right?
And one thing that does raise for us is eventually, if you haven't already, we'll need to do some orientation for y'all in terms of the Brown Act, things you can discuss, things that you need to put off for another, when it can be agendized.
Absolutely. Thank you, Philip.
Okay.
So wonderful. Then with nobody objecting, we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting until October 24th, 2024.